Good morning and welcome to Raise the Bar, another episode of Raise the Bar. I'm your host, Troy Haines, former UCLA high jumper and long time coach. Over 35 years served, I guess. I've been thinking about that more and more lately, but it seems that my life's work has been picked. I enjoy coaching more than anything else. So anyway, we're rambling. It's early on a Sunday here, and I'm getting ready to see our next guest, and she is Michelle, and I'm gonna have to ask her how to spell or say her last name. I'm gonna say Yalekhuee, or it looks like Yale Kui or Yalekhuee. So she is an 18-year-old British triple jumper, and she, of course, came across my feed and I saw her, performing at a very high level. And so we tried to get this going a while back, and she made me wait until after the what was it? She's in the she was in the British Senior Championships on the BBC. So she got to be seen on TV. And so then she said she was going to wait till the end of the month. That was the end of February. So we started working it out. And what I got was she said everything was going well. I was the youngest athlete at the British Senior Championship, the World Championship qualifiers. And she got through to the final after not knowing if she'd be able to compete because she was just recovering from an injury. So now we have finally caught up, and we'll be looking forward to hearing from her about all their exploits. So when she sent me her resume, as it were, her body of work, at age 11, 12, she won gold in the Kent Independent School Championship, showed potential, one of the fastest girls of the years. From ages 13 to 14, she joined the Medway and Maidstone Athletics Club, excelled in the 100 to 200. She won the county championships and became a national finalist in the triple jump. Then age 15 to 16, she continued on in the triple, focused solely on it after finding success in it, and dropped the other events. 16 and 17 faced setbacks and injuries due to COVID, changed coaches, then improved from 10 meters 86 to 12 meters 23 in that 1 year. And then age 17 to 18, continued on with the same coach, achieved third place age group in nationals, made it to senior nationals finals as a 17-year-old, placed third at outdoor under 23 nationals and the ESSA. That's, I'm not exactly sure what that is. Some of the acronyms are unfamiliar to me, especially overseas. And then from ages 18 to 19, and it says on her Instagram that she's 18. So she's in that age group, I guess. Relocated to London, switched coaches to Keith Fleming, achieved a personal best of 12 meters 33 indoors, won the age group nationals, reached the finals at the senior nationals we just talked about, placed third at BUCS, maintained rankings as UK's #1 in triple jump. Her goal is to represent Great Britain at the Loughborough International Championships and strive for excellence. So we're going to be talking with Michelle here in just a little bit. I got her scheduled for a half an hour, but this was our lead in. So we will be trying to find out what it's like over there in Britain. We've had some British athletes on here before. We've had one from Norway, one from Sweden, Fabian Delrid, one of my favorites, was on. We had Abraham Vogelsang on a while back, one of the up-and-coming decathletes, who I think is fighting off an injury. The last time I asked him if he wanted to do another one. And so we're always looking forward to, as I always say, kind of peeking behind the curtain of these athletes in other countries. You may notice that I'm rather shamelessly trying to find out what it is that they do in their training, that brings them success, and whether, all of us or these different nations are doing the exact same things, just with different, languages behind it, or, is anybody kind of cracked the code a little bit on their own in their own country and have, secrets that that the others do not. So I'm always on a fact-finding mission. So stay tuned here on Raise the Bar with Troy Haines, and we will be coming back and talking with Michelle Yalekhuee. All right.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Good morning. Oh,
It's morning for me. Sorry.
yeah.
It's morning for me. You're in the afternoon over there. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well. I got a lot of sleep last
That's
night.
good. That's
Actually, technically lost an hour, but I kind of made sure I got to bed early. Had a
good.
long week, so I wanted to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to talk with you. So,
Thank you.
Michelle, first of all, the first thing I came across was I had no idea how to say your last name, so I took a shot at Yale Cooey, but I
No, it's Yalekhuee, but I mean everyone gets it wrong. Even the announcers when they're announcing my name at competitions.
right.
Yeah, it's Yalekhuee.
Okay, Yalekhuee. Okay, so where are you from? Are you from Britain, or did you move there? Or
So I'm British. I was born here, but my parents are Nigerian. I've lived here all my life. I've never been to Nigeria, but I hope I can one day.
well, sure, yeah. Hopefully, you get to go compete over there or something, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's
That would be awesome. Okay, so born and raised in Britain, and then one of the things that I always tell my guests here on Raise the Bar, and hopefully the listeners are interested in. Well, I always want to know what's going on in other countries and what you guys do in your training that, brings you success. And then, it's a lot like traveling the world a little bit. You hear about how people train, what's the weather like, what's it, so and I saw you did a wonderful job of summarizing your exploits. So tell us a little bit about your background. Was it always just track and field, or were you always kind of athletic? Did you do other sports?
Yeah, so I feel like I've always done sports my entire life. Like my mum was a big advocate of me just being sporty. Like from a very young age, I remember I did ice skating, I did tennis, I've done hockey, swimming, everything. But I kind of just stuck with track and field because that's what I was best at. And I enjoyed it quite a lot as well. And I made quite a lot of friends. I feel like it's quite easy to make friends in track and field. So yeah, that's how
Okay.
I, yeah,
Yeah, so that's a pretty good background. Yeah, I was the same as a kid over here in Southern California. The sun's out all the time, and
yeah,
we kind of play whatever's in season. It hasn't gone that way now. Everybody kind of stays in their sport year round, but there used to
yeah.
be times when everybody just kind of did what was, kind of what was on TV, I guess, or just the seasons were set up. But tell us a little bit about the how it works over there. Like here in the US, there's schools and then there's also clubs, but the schools are where most of the kids go. But then
Mm,
sometimes the clubs are where the parents will send the kids if their schools aren't very well equipped, either with
yeah.
it, both facilities or coaches, right? So they'll send them to the club level because then they're trying to find them coaching basically. So how does it work over there for you, Michelle?
It's very different, I'd say, because most athletes are with clubs. There's many different clubs scattered around the country. And I mean, you don't necessarily have to go to a club you live near, it's just whatever club you choose.
Mhm.
I don't think people really compete for their schools as much. Like we do have competitions, like school competitions, where we compete against other schools, but those athletes that are good at what they're doing, they will go to a club because there's more competition, better quality athletes, and yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So then we've had other guests on before. I had Rosie Sharples on a year and a half ago. I was reminding the listeners of Fabian Delrid from Sweden, who's in his 20s now. I saw some of his videos from all the way up, but I keep kind of getting to that. I didn't really talk about that with Fabian, but I did with Abraham, who Vogelsang, who's from Norway, who's I don't know if you would have ever crossed paths with him yet, but he's a decathlete, and he was telling us kind of the same similar
yeah,
story. from Norway. I'm sure it's not exactly the same, but it does seem to be a little bit more the way the European, things roll. So now when you guys do your clubs, do you compete then against other clubs, and do they have a way of kind of funneling that into big championships and all that?
Yeah, so recently there's been this would I call it an organize? I think it's an organization. It's called NAL. So all of the top clubs within the country will compete against those other clubs to find out which club is the best. I think it's really good because there's great athletes there. It's a great opportunity to just compete against other athletes that you might compete at a national level or even international levels. So yeah.
Okay. So, and then the other thing that's really interesting, I don't know if I think it's catching on slowly over here. And it was new to me because, I just didn't grow up in it, but and I don't remember it when I was in college because I was a college level athlete over here. But the new thing that I'm seeing, it's probably not new for me. It's new for me. It's not new for you. Is the under whatever, under 18, under 20. I've seen under 23 now. I think I remember you sending that. When does the under thing start happening? And like the other question I always have is can you compete at say an under 20 when you're only 14 if you're good enough? Like how does
Yeah. So it's changing now actually because I think it starts at under 13. So there's under 13, under 15, under 17, under 20, under 23. Then it's just senior. But I think they're introducing an under 18, which is just I don't know why the UK is like just starting it now when all of the other European countries have that. But yeah, so when I was under 20 last year, I competed at the under 23 championships, which is it isn't unconventional. Like a lot of athletes do that as it's a good opportunity to compete against like better athletes, because they're
uh-huh.
old. It's a great opportunity to get experience as well. So yeah, it's possible to do that.
Okay. Yeah. So that I don't know. That's one thing I like stressing with my athletes is and I think it depends on your philosophy, but it seems like, the younger athletes that are talented, like you said, they need to see higher levels of competition. It's like it is a definite mindset change. I have other athletes that will come to me and say, well, I don't want to do this event unless I can win. And I'm like, I mean, first of all, how can I guarantee you that you're going to win because you're in competition with other athletes? And secondly, as the levels go up, it gets harder and harder, to do that. But also you kind of need to go through the fire, right? I mean, you gotta be battle tested, by and seeing the older athletes. I was a big believer in watching and learning, right? You pick up little tips, and not everybody's a gatekeeper, right? Some people are a little bit more open. They may be even willing to talk with you or share things about technique. Have you found that to be true for yourself when you're working and competing against these older athletes?
No, but I think you can take a lot away from the competition. So when I did compete at the under 23 age group championships, I was more relaxed because I knew that, okay, yeah, they are quite better than me. It's a chance to just get experience. And, I'm watching their techniques, I'm seeing how they compose themselves after good performances, negative performances, and I can then apply that to myself, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's it is interesting to see, people that are better, right? I mean, I had a unique opportunity when I was in college to compete against who at that time was still one of the tops in the world was Dwight Stones. He was an American world record holder in the high jump. And then, you definitely watch, and for
Yeah.
anything you can, pick up for sure. So tell me a little bit. I was curious too. It looked like you started out in doing the 100 and the 200. You said, and the times look pretty good. But you said you ditched them for the triple. How did that come about?
So I was really doing everything. I did discus, javelin, everything. Um, but I enjoyed 100 and 200 the most. I competed at a national level for 200 as well as triple jump. but it was very hard like training for both of them. Like what I did was I'd train on I think it was Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for the sprints, but that was also the same time that my jump sessions were. So what I would do was just after I finished sprinting, I'd go to the jumps coach and train. But it was quite a bit, especially as like a 13-year-old.
Right.
So yeah, so what I did was I realized that I'm better at triple jump. I enjoy it more. There's more potential there. So I just stuck with it really. And yeah,
Okay.
I yeah.
Do you think that the 100 and the 200 helped prepare you for the triple? Like, was it that base that you got and all that explosive power training, was that good for the triple for you?
Yeah, I think, well, speed is needed for a triple jump, and having a background as a sprinter, it definitely helped me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this is getting down to some technical aspects here because, I've coached all the jumps. I do a little bit of pole vault coaching. So, one of the things that I tell the kids, like I'm always recruiting, right? So I recruit, basketball players, obviously to be high jumpers, and sometimes volleyball players, although it's not quite as easy a transition for a volleyball player. And then generally anybody tall, right? They always think, oh, somebody who's tall can high jump, which isn't always the case. But then sprinters that come over, sometimes in the high schools that I'm training at, or even at Vanguard, which is a small college out here, somebody will be sent over from the sprint coach. And the first thing that I always like about sprinters is if I say, hey, I need you to accelerate towards the bar or towards the pit, they understand acceleration. They just go. And it's like,
Yeah,
and it's like, and they're off. And I'm like, sometimes they don't know how to drive their knee or use their arms, but they'll get moving. And I'm like,
yeah,
that is one of the key things at producing power. Like I always tell them, I go, look, some of you guys, I'm like, who's taking physics? And most of my kids haven't taken physics. So I'm like, okay, in physics, when we talk about power is force times velocity. So I'm like, I need both aspects. I need your strength and your speed. And I go, preferably we ramp them both up. So get that thing moving, and then I'll teach you how to direct it along the way. So the explosive speed and acceleration I love, but the one thing that I have trouble sometimes with the sprinters, I was just curious if you had to be trained differently or if you have a different point of view, is the being forward part. Because I know that when you sprint coming out of the blocks, right, we're on a tilt, and I've seen all the sprint work where it's like, don't even start cycling your feet, right? Just you're almost dragging your feet forward and just pushing and driving to get going before you start cycling, right? So I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily need that phase of your sprinting. I need you when you're up and you're running,
yeah,
but even then, the great sprinters, you still have a little bit of a forward tilt, correct? You have to push the cart. I always tell me it's easier to push the cart than pull the cart, right? So tilt forward and push. But at the takeoff, high, long, and triple, I don't want you to be forward because we're not going to be able to do anything, right? Your
yeah,
chest gets in the way of driving your knee up. So it's like I always tell them to tilt their flaps back like you're an airplane, right? Lean back, and to varying degrees, high jump more obviously than long and triple, because if you go up too high, I know you have trouble. You can collapse on a phase if you get too much air or whatever. So does that make sense? I'm curious as to how that, if you were aware of that, or if you've thought about it or been trained through it or what.
yeah. So I think, well, I changed coaches in September, and a main thing that we focused on was my running, because yes, I could run fast, but I wasn't running efficiently. So we worked very hard on changing the structure of my running, because what I would do before was literally just run like a headless chicken down the runway and hope for the best.
Mhm.
But that's not what you're supposed to do. So we've done like wicket training, we've done drills and just exercises to modify my running. Um, like I have to stay upright. I have to open my strides a bit more and cycle when I'm running. Yeah, so I wouldn't say I run exactly the same as I would if I was doing a 60 or 100. No.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So thank you, because that for me, I'm always looking for justifications for the things that I say, because sometimes I don't actually do research and go, this is the agreed position amongst all the experts, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, this is after 30 something years of coaching where I'm just like, I just notice trends or I just notice positions. And I'm like, okay, I just don't think you can't be forward, you know? So I'm like, and I understand that being forward is important, but so what you said confirmed that to me when you said immediately when you said you were started going over wickets. I thought, your coach must have said you need to cycle. And then you popped right up with that, you know, a
Yeah.
second said, we really started working on cycling. Now, I had a little Romanian coach over here in the US who, God bless him, he's not with us anymore, but he came over and he was this little 5'2", bespectacled, you know, heavy Romanian accent. I had trouble understanding him a lot of the time, but he was a master of cycling. Everything that we did, because he coached high, long, and triple. So, and he had top level athletes. This is at a local junior college, and nobody, I mean, people around here knew who he was because they always were winning state championships for a while at this college. And he produced one Olympian high jumper, two guys that jumped, you know, 226 or 27 or something. I mean, no way. 230. Yeah. I mean, 7, 8 high jumps, right?
Yeah.
But when you watched his athletes, and I was trying to become one of his better athletes, man, it was knees up, you know, knees up to hip level and
Yeah.
feet kicking you in the butt like every step, just all the way down. And the more I did that, the more I realized I'm like, well, you know, knowing a little bit about physics, I'm like, well, your center of mass has to be raised up, right? If you stand up on your toes and you bring your knees up and your feet are kicking you in the butt, you've already gotten taller. I mean, you're
Right.
already getting air and you're not even off the ground yet. That's the way I try to teach it. I'm like, I need you taller. I don't need you scraping your feet along the ground, no matter how fast you're moving, because at the end, we got to bring that mass up to get it air. So
Yeah.
that's it. I like hearing that, especially the wickets. I find those wickets are really interesting to use. I use them on the last 5 steps of the curve in the high jump to try to
Right.
get
Yeah.
athletes to cycle through there, you know, because a lot of them will start dragging their feet, you know, and I think, and then whenever you're dragging your feet, the other thing, I don't know, do you find it helps with your consistency of your stride?
What,
The,
dragging my feet or
the cycling, when you're cycling, do you find your strides more consistent?
yeah, well, I wouldn't say I overly strike. I mean, sorry, I wouldn't say I cycle like very dramatically. I've kind of made it just natural in a way,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's more efficient, and I find that I'm on top of myself a bit better, especially when I'm going into the hop phase because I'm already in that tall position.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So cycling, big deal. Now, let's talk about weight training because when you do weights over there, I'm assuming you lift weights. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of what weightlifting are you doing? Tell our listeners who, especially some of our younger listeners who may not have really good high school programs and they might not even be lifting.
Yeah, so I started lifting in September. I'd say I'm still learning things in the gym, but we do cleans, which is very important for us to do. We do squats, but it's not like deep squats. It's at the minute it's quarter squats.
Mhm.
We do bench press, and just like low weight, like 3 kg, 4 kg upper body weight, like a circuit.
Mhm.
Um, we do step ups, anything really that reinforces the actions that I'm doing in the triple jump.
Right.
Um, yeah, and quite a lot of work for my hip flexors. So in the drills, like when we're doing our warm up drills, we might use ankle weights. So when we're doing like A skips, I don't know, I just find that it really helps my hip flexors and yeah,
Yeah. I like
yeah,
that. I mean, your choices are just a couple, right? You're either going to put an ankle weights on, or you're going to hook yourself up to an elastic band, right? And then, but the weights go with you. Whereas, I
yeah,
mean, elastic bands can go with you to a point, but you can only go so far before you got to come back or whatever, too. So, I like that idea, the A skip. I've kind of resisted doing weighted you know, the A skip, the B skip, and all those things. There was one thing Elias always said when I asked him that one time. I said, why don't we just do ankle weights on the skips? And he was like, no, no, no. but I didn't really understand his answer. And I thought maybe he was worried about too much stress on the joints or whatever, but I think it applied in a intelligent way, maybe not, maybe he was worried about too much, too soon.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, like the hip flexors are, amazing because I always tell the kids, I go, the hip flexors are like this long, they're just above your hip and they hook on the upper part of your femur and they're asked to pull your whole, your knee up, which is why I tell the kids it's better to cycle because if your foot kicks you in the butt, then your leg is half as long when your hip flexor goes to pull it up. If your lower leg is down there lower and swinging away from you, now I got to pull a longer lever up with that same short little muscle. And it's not really in an advantageous position to do that. So, yeah, hip flexors are big with me also. When you said quarter squats, do your quarter squats get really heavy because there's
Um, I'd say, well, heavy, I'm not too sure, but we try and lift as heavy as possible. It's more to do with being explosive instead of like the like full deep squat where it's slow and sluggish. You have to be explosive. Once you're down, you need to get up. So we do vary between quarter and half squats depending on what time of year it is. So
right.
at the minute, yeah, yeah,
So deeper at the beginning and shallower towards competition, right? And then
yeah.
do you ever do really quick explosive jump squats?
No, not at the minute. The I think we're primarily focusing on the squats, cleans, step ups, but
Mhm.
there are other exercises which honestly I don't know the name of. I just know the acronym. But yeah,
Right. Well,
yeah,
the step ups make sense, like you said, because that's mimicking the running motion. So one of the things that's in the last, it's been 20 years for sure, but I think it's being redefined as we go along because the one thing that's so great about all the nations now and all the internet and all the great young athletes like yourself that are all watching and learning from each other. We
yeah.
have coaches and meeting and there's Google Translate. I can read stuff in other languages or have it translated for me and go, oh wow, this is really interesting. Learning about something, a huge topic is sport specificity, meaning at the beginning of the season, you can kind of just do really general things, right?
Yeah.
In a general kind of shape. You might go on a cross country run. Everybody's going like, why would you go jogging for 3 miles? Well, it's early in the season. I'm just going to build up my cardio or, whatever. But, that kind of training, obviously, as you're getting closer to your competitions, your world championships or whatever, it doesn't make any sense at all. So, it's a wide pyramid base the way I picture it in just about everything that we do, that the wide base is like lots of reps of just about anything. And then it starts to go up, right? So when you taper, you start to go towards more and more specific. So that's why I was curious with the sprinters, knowing that you don't hop down the runway, or we both don't do two-footed jumps down the runway, like a two-footed squat, as beneficial as I know they are, because my own success in college tied to the fact that when I squatted, I don't know what 400 pounds comes to in kilos because I forget the conversion, but I remember it was a big number for me. I was like, damn, I'm squatting 400 pounds. That's pretty good. Full squats at 400. Then I jumped, 218 or 219 in the high jump. And it was a rather big, transformation from one year to the next. So it was like that power was important, but it also wasn't very specific because
Mhm.
I don't take off on two legs. And
Yeah.
so everything's starting to switch. I'm wondering if your coaches have talked with you about the planning, like, are you going to move towards more single leg support? Because the step up is a single leg support move,
Yeah.
which I picture as both sprinting and jumping. So talk about that a little bit if you have any ideas on that.
So one of my weaknesses is the jump phase into the pit. So what we're trying to do is strengthen that leg by doing single leg activities, whether that's just hopping, like a series of hops, series of steps bounds. That's what we're trying to do, really strengthen and not activate, sorry, make the leg reactive off the
Mhm.
ground. So yeah, we do definitely specify like yeah, we do make sure the exercises we're doing are tailored towards my event and my needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the two-legged movement is or one, I should call it a one-legged movement, the shift from 2 to 1. It's something that I've just embarked upon in the last year or so of training. I've gotten to a place where I'm trying to do the two-legged stuff early, just as the base, and then pretty much as quickly as possible transitioning to one. So even, the step ups and lunges, different variations from going forward on your lunges, backwards lunges, I call them step back lunges where you reach out, step, push all the way back, those kinds of things. I'm a big believer in that. And then, even one-legged cleans, one-legged snatch, because why not? It's just one leg, and it makes you balance. It makes you use your core different. And then, you're focusing on just that leg. And I'm like, again, realizing that very rarely do both of your legs do the same thing at the same time.
Right. That is very true.
You know what I mean? So there's that. Do you do anything with your arms with weights or elastics to mimic what you do either as you run or when you take off in the jumps?
Well, within the circuit, there is an arm action where we have two dumbbells and we just kind of sprint with that, and then we do it without the weights. But I wouldn't really say so, not necessarily. It's more to do with my legs rather than my arms. But yeah.
Focus on legs more. Okay. So now I haven't had a chance to see any of your videos. I'm looking at your feed. Actually, I'm watching your last one, and it cuts back and forth. So you do the first, okay, yeah, it switched back to something. So you do a pinwheel on the very first one, right? Is that the way you've always done it, or is that something new?
I think I've just naturally always done the windmill kind of hop into
Mm-hmm.
the like straight arm kind of step phase. But more recently, I've been trying to grasp a new technique for the jump phase instead of like spinning my arms around, just efficiently swinging it forward, which has been a struggle, but it definitely helps when I do it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So you're switching from a single arm windmill kind of action to doubles. You're gonna
Oh
do
no, sorry. I meant in the for the jump phase, yes. So
very last
instead of
one.
yeah, because I don't know exactly what I was doing, but I was swinging my arms like backwards. It was
Right.
just a bit of a complication. So I'm trying to swing it just forward like that.
Yeah. Well, this is another revelation for me in the last couple of years, Michelle, because I keep telling the kids like I have a system, but when I say I have a system, it's the same thing we just talked about, the whole idea of general to specific. But when I
Yeah.
get somebody who's younger and you say, hey, let's just start running, I watch them running and I'm like, okay, I can see I need to do some work here or whatever. And then other times, like, they move pretty well already. So let's see how they jump, and for the high jumpers, I'll have them just jump back over the bar, a standing jump, just to see. And the thing I usually look for there is, do they actually use their arms? Because for me,
Yeah.
the arms are very important in the high jump. And then for the triple, I mean, I've been trying just about anything or everything depending on the kid. So if they don't use their arms very well right away, I'll be like, well, let's just go, European single then. Let's just run, and boom, and then bring that same leg around and repeat. So boom, 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 just simple. And that's the A drill, as
Right.
simple as possible, right? And say, let's make it clean and efficient. And that way, maybe that'll work, and then sometimes you try it and it's just abysmal failure. It's like, no, that's not going to work. So then I'm like, okay, let's see if we can get you to gather and bring your arms behind you, and the traditional double arm power guy all the way through, with good cycling, whatever. I think, I don't, this is just me, I don't know if you would agree, but I think the triple jump is got to be the most technical. I throw pole vault up there. I mean, all the field event throws and jumps are technical, but the triple jump is like, you just can't go and bludgeon your way through the triple jump and make yourself better. Like there's lots of technique along the way.
Yeah, I'd say so too. Like, considering I've done quite a lot of events, I'd say triple jump is one of the hardest because there's no like textbook way of doing it. There's no one way. It
Right.
depends on the athlete really. And I don't know, yeah, compared to like sprinting, I mean, even sprinting really, there's no one way, which kind of
Right.
makes it an art.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. I think the really good coaches, I think both can be successful. Like you can have one guy that just goes, look, this is the way I did it. This is the
Yeah.
way you're doing it. And that, and you're going to find somebody in your group that you're training that can do what you did to whatever extent. But I think there's going to also be a lot of people be sitting there going, wait, we don't have the same build. I don't even have the same style, and it's like, maybe they can adapt, maybe they can't, it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've shown kids like, okay, look, I want you to use both arms to take off. You know, you're not. So this is one of the first steps in getting to use your arms. I'm like, at a certain point when you're running, your arms are always up opposite. Always, always, always. But at some point, we're going to bring them together and they're going to start working together. And that's going to be weird because you don't do that. Nobody does that. When we start walking, our arms oppose. We start running, our arms oppose. They don't go together unless we force them together. So it's like, I'll show them a simple gather. You go, this was me 3 steps away from the bar. I would go gather. And for the last 2 steps, I'd be swinging my arms back and then jump. Gather, then jump. Show it to them, walk it through, go to do it, can't do it, and hundreds of reps. And I'm just like, okay, all right, forget it. let's just
Yeah.
run off the ground with the one arm, and sometimes simpler is better. Sometimes they get it, but it's like, yeah, there's so many variations. Like you said, like, I don't know. Have you become a student of the triple? Have you watched? Because it sounds like you're doing a lot of watching of these older athletes and learning. So like when you compare what you do to what you're seeing, does that help you with, your technique?
Yeah, I'm a visual learner. Like I need to see it be done before I can do it. So I do find myself just watching like world championships, like just Olympic athletes doing the event. And I've noticed that they all jump entirely differently. So some athletes kick back in their hop, whereas others like cycle and they like drop down the step. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, sorry, not step, hop phase, but they can jump as far as each other. So yes, watching other athletes is good, but it's just knowing which one works for you, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Trusting your coach.
Have you experimented with something that just was an abysmal failure and you just ditched it right away?
I'd say like the jump phase because more recently I've seen people, I really don't know what it's called, where they just like, there's different types of jump phases, right? And I've experimented with those, but it just didn't work. So I'm sticking to what I do currently.
Right, right. So when you do your jump phase, so let's define that for our listeners. So are you calling a hop, step, and jump, or what are the three in a row that the names that
Yeah,
you hop,
yeah.
step, jump?
So hop, step, jump. Yeah,
So your hop phase, step phase, jump phase. The last one is a jump. Okay, so yeah, the step, that's the one over here, for the average jumper. I think the step kills everybody because, in high school over here, when you get someone, because they usually don't start triple jumping, I've noticed at I can't say that I've noticed, but I don't get a lot of inquiries for training kids to triple jump. Like it
no,
seems like they wait till they're older. So the high school kids, they just kind of get thrown into it because we're just like you guys at the club level. At our high school goes against another high school, they're going to have all the events. And then as a coach, if they're competitive at all, they're going to be like, either they're going to say, look, I don't have any triple jumpers and they just don't send anybody, or they send a couple people over and go triple jump with all that much training, right? And they're like, they don't know what they're doing. So they just run and they watch everybody else and they try it. What I usually
yeah,
see is what I call long jump, step, long jump, right? You see someone who takes a really long first phase, and then
yeah.
they're too high, too long, they collapse, they take a short step and basically switch legs. So they go long jump, step, opposite leg, long jump, and they get their mark, right? So I would think for me, it's always been like, okay, how do I stretch out that step phase in the middle and still, do whatever? So my question to you is how does that work with you? Do you notice in your own jumping, is that been the phase that needs the most work? And if it is or isn't, how did you attack that phase?
So I'd say my jump phase is actually the one that needs the most work. I It used to be my step phase, but I've developed that by really just working on those step phase actions, such as the exercises and drills that my coach has given me with the ankle weights, the resistance bands. Um, and also, I do think if you're struggling with the step phase, I find that most people just do a what's it called, like a gymnastic split in the air kind of thing, and
Mhm.
they come straight down instead of really holding and squeezing that step phase. Which, if you do that, I think you'll go a bit further in the set phase.
Mhm.
Or what people often do is they have a massive hop phase, which compromises the step, and then they have another massive jump phase. So I don't know. It depends on, I feel like it just depends on what the person's doing,
Right.
whether it's their hot phase, which is resulting to a very short step phase,
Yeah. Well, that the
or
one
if
thing,
that makes
yeah. Well, I remember Elias, and I have never done the triple jump, which I don't know if it would be shocking to anybody to hear that as I've coached it, but I've never done it. I've done the
yeah,
drills. We did a lot of repeat bounds, single leg, we would go left, 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 seven of them in a row. And you would put a
yeah,
mark down where you started, mark where you ended, and then you just try to beat that. We just keep trying to stretch the singles. Then I would do the weak leg singles, repeats, boom, 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 right? And then we did switch bounding, which I would call just almost like
yeah,
extended power running, right? Where you drive the knee. I call it punch, ride, reach. Punch that knee up, ride it, and then extend your lower leg, and then try the other one. And see if you can. How much ground can you cover? And we did all of that stuff, but then he never asked me to take that onto a runway because everybody knew I was not going to be a triple jumper. But I did watch it, and then for the single leg repeats, that's where cycling came in. To me, if you can't cycle on those, if you do what I call the pogo leg, right? You push off and then you just swing your leg out in front of you, you're not going to be able to do that the same way you wouldn't
yeah,
be able to run that way. I don't think, it's the same thing. Sometimes I tell people, for me, triple jump is just like running through the air. Like if you can keep, that was Elias's philosophy, and it's kind of stuck with me is maintain the cycling all the way,
yeah,
whatever you're doing. So you cycle it, and once you hit that, for me it'd be my left, and I'm going to go up and put that left foot down again. I've got to just do a cycle through the air and try
yeah,
to extend out, and that way everything's ready to go again, right? So, but yeah, I see that it's awkward. It's what everybody does, right? When you show somebody the triple jump the first time, they're like, "Man, that looks awkward." It's like, yeah, I don't know who invented it, but they were crazy. Like, why didn't they just go left, right, left, or
yeah.
like left, right instead of repeat? But whoever came up with the idea, it sure has evolved since then. Um, okay, so we talked about a lot of technical stuff. Now let's talk about you and your what's going on with you now. Are you currently in school and at the see this is where I don't know the system well enough, because over here it'd be high school and then college. So
Right.
what's it like over there? What level are you at, and where are you going?
So I'm at university, which is where my coach is. I'm at Brunel University, and I'm a sports scholar there. I think it's quite convenient because I literally live on campus, which is zero point 0.2 seconds away from the track.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just studying while marketing whilst also training.
Okay. So when you graduate from school, will that be with a degree in what? What is it that you're studying?
So I'm studying marketing, so I'll be graduating with a marketing degree.
A marketing degree. Okay.
Yeah.
So is that something that you want to do for a career? Is it just something that you're doing while you're training? And I'm saying that facetiously because I had no idea what I was going to do as a career, and I was just busy being an athlete.
Yeah. No, I do want to have a career in marketing, whilst also doing athletics afterwards, like after my university.
Mhm. So is
Yeah.
that marketing going to be directed towards you and your career, like how to market yourself as a brand per se?
Probably not. I think I'd probably work in like within an agency and do digital marketing for other brands.
Hmm. Okay.
They're quite, they'd be like two separate entities, my athletics and then my career.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, does the marketing stuff give you any, I don't know, insights or hungers or whatever as you're seeing your career evolve? Do you kind of see, I don't know, it's different for me talking from it from that angle because I like the stuff that I understand about marketing is all just observation or watching Instagram or being a product of sports over here in the US. I mean, we see marketing all the time for advertisements for whatever, Instagram, TikTok. There's just a never ending wave of
Yeah.
marketing designed to get your dollars out of your pocket, right? So how does
Yeah.
that affect you when you're thinking about your career?
I think marketing is evolving like every day. There's more and more opportunities right now. Right now, I'm trying to get an internship this summer, but because I'm doing marketing, it's very common for it to be online, which is convenient being an athlete. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. So now you're gonna stay there in school now. How long does it take to get that degree? So how long are you gonna be able to stay there and train while you're working on your marketing?
Yeah, so I'll graduate in 2026.
Okay, so that's only 2 more years.
Yeah.
And what happens after that for you athletically? Like along the way, first of all, are you an older 18 or a younger 18? Are you getting ready to turn 19?
Yeah, July.
Okay, so you're gonna be 19 in July then, and that's coming up Olympics. Are your goals? Do you have any Olympic goals this year? Is this too early? Are you thinking 2028 LA?
2028. Yeah, I'd say this is way too early. I'm still developing as an athlete, so I'd like to watch this year and then hopefully compete in 2028.
Right. And then so this level that you reached this year, which sounds pretty amazing, like you said, you were competing against much older athletes. Is that the highest level, or are there more levels for you to get to?
Yeah, so I hope to compete internationally. There's a competition where the top athlete in the country gets to wear the GB Great Britain vest and compete against other athletes within the country though, but older. Um, Hopefully I'll be selected for that if I continue working hard. There's also World Athletic, like the World Championships
Right.
in August, and the standard's 12.9. So yeah,
How
if
how
I'm
far do you have to jump to get to those levels compared to where you are now?
well, I'm at 12.3, which is an indoor PB. Well, no, sorry, an outright PB. Um, I still think I can push on a bit, definitely, but the standard to compete for GB at Worlds is 12.9.
Okay, so not too
Yeah.
far off, right? Well, it's 60 centimeters is what? 5 centimeters is 2 inches, so 12 times two. It's about 2 feet, roughly.
Yeah.
About two
Yeah.
feet. Okay. So, and then you're going along and you get to where the Great Britain thing. That's interesting because it depends on the year. I've never seen any more than three when I'm looking at the Olympics, right? It's
Yeah.
rare to get three, but like in the jumps. I remember last few times I've studied the jumps. I'm doing what you do. I'll go through and watch YouTube, right, and see the telecast of the jumps, and they introduce everybody first. They don't always show everybody, which I'm always mad about because I figure when you work that hard to get to the
Yeah.
championships or the Olympics, could you show everybody, please? Like, it's so annoying to me. I'm like, I had the dream of going to the Olympics and even just making it to the Olympic trials after a while. And it was like, I mean, I don't think, I don't think TV is kind of brutal in that respect. And it's almost like they don't understand what they're missing in showing everybody the athletes that worked so hard to get there. Like,
Yeah.
you guys just sit behind a camera and you do what you do and you talk. It's like, go watch the athletes, go watch what they go through, the workouts and then the recovery from the workouts and, the stretching and the diet and the discipline and everything else. It's like, there's so much that goes into it. And you hear these stories of people that trained for not 4 years or 8 years, but 12, 16 years, and they finally break through and they get to this level, and then they're not on TV even with that. You know, you're like, dude, show them. You know, show them when they get there. Oh, that's me. Shameless plug for all track and field, and especially the jumps, because it's just so hard to get there. So when you're talking about this competition against the other countries, is that just European?
No, world. So it's all the athletes in the world for under 20 within the age group of under
Well, you were
20.
talking about when you wore the uniform, though. Is that
Oh
is
no, no. So that's a potential in May where it's called Loughborough International. So the under 20s, the top under 20 within the country gets the GB vest. And I think there's seniors involved, under 23s involved. It's just kind of, and Scottish and Welsh athletes as well, the Northern Islands.
right?
It's a competition for the United Kingdom, really.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And so the other question jumps to mind is, where are you ranked right now in your own country?
Number one.
You're the number one regardless of age?
Oh no, no, sorry. Regardless of age, I'm not sure where I am. I think maybe top 10, I think.
Uh-huh.
Um, for the British senior championships, I finished seventh. So I would like to think I'm top 10.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got your work cut out for you and your goals set and all that. Is there any kind of money that flows your way as an athlete? Or is there support coming in? Is there, like, over here now? I don't know if you know much about what's going on here in the States. I know that we like to think that we're important to everybody else, but I don't know if, you know, if everybody's watching us all the time. But we have these new things over here that they've allowed the college athletes to start getting paid.
That's really
So
good.
the NIL, right? The name, image, and likeness. I'm wondering, is that exist over where you guys are? How does that work with TV and all that?
Well, there's competition. So depending on what club you are in, I'm currently with Harrows AC. And for the more senior national competitions, if you do win, or depending on where you finish, you will get paid a certain amount, depending on how many points you score for the club. As well as, like, because I'm a scholar at my university, I get paid for the British universities competitions if I do come top three, as well as just being a scholar. So there are like potentials of earning. Yeah.
Okay,
Probably
cool.
not as much as in America.
Yeah. I mean, over here, the stuff is tied more to advertising, right? So
Right.
if you
Yeah.
have a big enough name, then, you know, over here, they're willing to sell and promote you as you sell and promote their product, right? Or whatever that is. There's both performance fees that you mentioned, and then there's always sometimes just, what do they call it? Not showing up fees, but oh, the name just skipped my head. Just when they pay you to show up,
Yeah. Yeah.
regardless of how you perform, right? Because you're such a big name, they want you there to help
Because people,
advertise.
yeah.
Appearance
Yeah.
fees.
Yeah.
Appearance. That was it. I'm like, senior moment. Sorry. You got appearance fees, you've got performance fees, and then okay, so you have that going for you too. That's interesting because over here, you know, you hear the college kids will say that they are going pro because
Yeah. I do hear
you're
that
in
often.
college, for the longest time you were an amateur, and as an amateur you couldn't accept any money. To If you did, you'd lose your amateur status, and what that
Mm.
meant was you just couldn't compete against the amateurs anymore. You had to turn pro, and that line is getting more and more blurred all the time. I think, you know, it used to be real distinct, and, you know, and unfortunately in like Olympic history they had, you know, stories. There's a great athlete here in the US named Jim Thorpe, who back in, I think it was 1912, was on an Olympic team and won gold medal. And I think it was in the long jump. And then like a year later was competing somewhere and became a minor league baseball player or a semi-pro baseball player and accepted money. And they actually went, he either did it before, I forget, but they stripped his gold medal basically from him because he accepted $6 to play baseball back in 1912 or something. It's a terrible, you know,
That's
thing.
ridiculous.
Yeah, you think it's, it's ridiculous, and you look back, but they were very serious about the whole amateur versus professional thing. And now, nowadays you've got, I mean, the suspicions are that the NIL stuff is getting down to the high school level, and that it probably always has been over here because football is so huge, and basketball really drives things over here. So if you're a very talented young football or basketball player, there are people that are interested in making sure that continue to succeed and make money off you as you make money
Yeah.
off them. So that used to be all hush hush, under the table money kind of stuff. Reggie Bush was a famous player over here who got his Heisman Trophy stripped, and they didn't care. They actually, USC over here lost a national championship. They said, well, Reggie Bush wasn't, getting paid, so we're going to strip your title. And, everybody just kind of goes, well, everybody cheats. They just got caught. That was the kind of the rationalization and now it's like, it's almost like cheating is out because you
Mm.
can go ahead and pay the college kids now.
Yeah.
They can make money. So it's pretty amazing. You've got these kids that show up even to the big schools, Alabama's and all that, and they're actually asking for money. So another quick question: have you ever thought about coming over here to train at one of the colleges? Like, if you're going to be done by 2026, would you then consider coming over here? Is there a possibility of having a collegiate career over here in addition to what you do over there?
I don't think so because I know that the UK and America, they're two different cultures, and the way that we train or they train athletes are entirely different. And I'd like to stay with my current coach.
Mhm.
So I did consider going to America for my university career, but I do think that the UK is for me. It's something that I know and I think I can develop with, like the system.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So you get your degree in marketing, you keep competing at least through 2028. Is that the
Yeah.
goal? So we're talking only 4 years. So you'll
Yeah.
still be in your early 20s. Do you have thoughts for already? In this respect, you'd be miles ahead of where I was. I tell people this story all the time. I go, once I graduated UCLA, I was 22, right? And so I went for another 6 years. When did I graduate? I graduated in 86 off the team. 88, I was 24. 92, I went till I was 28 without a job. I
Mm.
basically didn't do anything with my degree. I was a kinesiology degree. I never wanted to be a training room guy. I didn't want to be the taping the ankles guy or any of that. Didn't have goals as physical therapy. When I did kinesiology, I was applying it to me as an athlete. That was it. I didn't realize that it was kind of prepping me to be a coach later. That it helped, to that extent. But I can't say that I had a plan or an organized career sequence set up that involved my degree. And
Yeah.
also didn't have any idea how long my athletic career was going to, last. So I actually shut it down at age 28 when I said I took my last shot at an Olympic trials, never even qualified. And I finally said, I think I'm getting too old for this and I need to get a real job, So how do you see that? I know it's a tough question to ask a young athlete, but I think you guys are more mature in a lot of ways than we were back then. So how do you kind of see the next, 10 years or even overall career?
Well, I question that. I have that same question quite a lot, but I do think taking it step by step is important because anything can happen really. Like I say, I want to do marketing, but who knows? I could change that. I could use my marketing degree to go in another job or direction. But my plan is to obviously graduate, get a job with that marketing degree, whilst also training still part time. Well, not part time, just like training after work, the same way that I would when I was at school, training after school, training before school. So I do think doing both is possible because it's important to not just hyperfixate on one and abandon the other when I can still do both.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
as you continue to grow and get better at your craft, and those performances get better and you're reaching higher levels,
yeah,
there does come a little bit more opportunity for some of this other money to flow your way also, though, right?
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
something that is in there as a goal?
yeah. Because I'm aware that track doesn't pay that much, so that is why I've got such a strong push on getting my degree and building my career.
Yeah. Well, that's smart. That puts you light years ahead of where I was. I didn't even think money. I remember just thinking, you know, when I was a kid, I watched the Olympics, you know, when I think the first time I watched I was 8 in 1972 from Munich. And then
Yeah,
there's a guy named Mark Spitz over here that won 7 gold medals swimming, was a legend before, you know, Michael Phelps, right? So
yeah,
he won 7 in one Olympics, which was amazing, and was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. You know,
yeah,
this really handsome guy with this broad chest and 7 gold medals hanging around his neck. You know, and as a kid, you're like, wow, look at that. You know, and then 4 years later, I watched Bruce Jenner win his gold medal in the decathlon. And then
yeah,
he's on the covers of Wheaties boxes, you know. So
yeah,
these are the things that we're watching as kids. And I'm like, well, this is great. And this is back when I would say I still think of it as more of a heyday for track and field here in the States than it is now, because I think more people understood track better back then.
yeah,
Now, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer,
exactly,
you go down the list, track is way down in the
exactly.
tiny little niche market at the end. And there's still enough old people like me around that remember, you know, stuff from the past, but the younger generations, and even though we still have record amounts of people that come out, you know, for track and field at the high school level, they're not always the most talented kids, because a lot of the most talented kids are already doing one of those other sports. And those other sports don't share like they used to. Like I said, I used to play football and then I would do track. And I know people that did football, basketball, and then track. And some guys would play baseball in the spring also. And so they were always doing those things. But it was like, you know, track, we could always share the athletes, but we don't always get them to just do
Yeah,
track only. They usually do those other things first, you know, and there's all kinds of examples of those here in the States rather famously that were really good at both things. So, you know, but it's like now, like you said, the earning potential in track, you have to be, you know, the upper echelon before you
yeah.
like I've seen one Usain Bolt commercial. One.
Really? Having said that, I was in London the other day and I did see an athlete on the like on the poster in the tube, and I was shocked because it's so rare. Like I do think our sport is declining because the people that watch it are getting older. Um, and I think yeah, but there is still potential, I would say. There's
There
still
is.
great
There
potential.
is. We need the young minds like yourselves, these marketing and
Yeah,
sales and, you know, uh, what else is it called over here? Communications, right? We have people
yeah,
that communications majors, right?
public relations. Yeah, yeah,
You know, the people that are behind the podcast, the telecast, the everything else that put out a polished product and try to promote, right? And to get interest, because you have to get TV revenue. TV revenue is everything, right? You have to get advertisers that are going to say, hey, we want you to sell our product. And you have to be seen. Like over here in the States, track and field just is not seen that much. You know, we don't,
no,
you know, at the big meets, even the NC2A finals over here are usually on a delay of a week or
exactly.
so. See it on channel 2, you know, it's kind of
And
weird.
even like when I'm trying to watch a major competition, I struggle to find it on TV, which is quite annoying. Quite
Right.
annoying. But yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, after the fact is great, right? I can watch the last 7 or 8 world championships in a row on YouTube, right?
yeah,
Because they taped it. And then, but then again, I'm going through it going, okay, wait, where's so and so? How come they didn't show
yeah,
some athlete? You know, and it's annoying, but at least you get to see something. But yeah, I mean, the Olympics every 4, yeah, everybody gets to see the big show. But, you know, the coverage is still from that point. I'm just like, you know, the 100 meters, big event, everybody gets the 100, because what do they tell you every time? Okay, soon to come or more to come, and here's Usain Bolt and the 100 is coming, you know. And then But along the way, they're just kind of sketching through things, and they don't really do a cohesive job of covering everything. And I get it, because track and field is not organized in that way. It's all happening at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
But
that's true.
still, you need to get somebody in control that goes, okay, look, we understand this. And for my money, if you can get people that can do that in football, like football, there's cameras everywhere. So they show you
Yeah.
this and that. They got shots from the stands. They got shots from overhead cameras. They cover everything. And there's a guy in a truck somewhere going, okay, go to camera 2, go to camera 3, cut over here. We need to have the same thing in track and field, with knowledgeable people that can say, hey, let's go watch Michelle. This is her first attempt here at, in the
Yeah.
triple, and she's just made it to this championship, and she's an up and coming. We need to know all these great facts about you guys and present it with the drama that's naturally there. But if you're just sketching around all the time, there's no drama. You have
No.
to have the, okay, after the first round, so and so is leading, and you're looking at it going, I gotta improve on one of these next 3 jumps, or I'm not going to make it to the final, or whatever it is. So, well, we've addressed a lot of things, Michelle. There's you training, you going to school, getting your degree. There's your goals all the way along. Have you set in the goals in the Olympics? Like, just give us a brief overview of what you think, where you'd like to see your career go. Like at the very end, when you're looking back, what would you like to have achieved?
I would have liked to be a world class athlete. I know it takes a lot, but it's you once you're there, it means you're the best of the best. And that is what I want to be. But as for now, like my current goal is getting that GB vest, so being a junior world class athlete. But that is my primary goal. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So, well, hey, I am so glad that you took the time out of your afternoon, my morning, and spent it with us here. It's I love listening to you and your stories. I hope the world for you, that you just
Thank you.
jump out of the building, and this upcoming season. You guys are we outdoor yet over there? Is it good enough?
Well, actually, there's one more indoor competition for quite a lot of people, but then from like next week or so, everyone's focusing on outdoors.
Okay, so we're switching to outdoors. Has the weather gotten any better over there?
No, it's raining as we speak,
uh,
pouring it. Yeah.
one of the drawbacks of being in Great Britain, right? How often do you guys actually see the sun?
Well, we see the sun regularly, but it doesn't mean it's warm. Like,
Right.
yeah.
All
But I
right.
can't
Well,
wait till like July.
okay. So when's your biggest meet of the year is going to be when? Which is the one?
It should be British Senior Championships again, outdoors, but I honestly don't know because it depends on how well I perform throughout the season, which could lead to greater opportunities, I guess.
So do you have a specific number in mind, or are you just chasing whoever's in front of you? As you mentioned, 12, it was 1290? Is it
Yeah,
1280?
I'd like to get to 1250 first, because I feel like it's all about a step, like stepping stones. Instead of just saying 12.9, I'd like to get to 12 and a half meters first, preferably.
Right. And then
Yeah.
you said you're actively working on your jump phase. Does that
Yeah.
mean the other ones are good, or or do you do some work on all 3 phases all the time, like trying to stretch
Yeah.
it all, obviously?
Right now, I'm not in the pit jumping just because I finished my indoor season and we've got like a two. I know it's different to America, but we've got a 2 month break between my first competition again. So we're just doing it. We're like at the bottom of the pyramid doing
Back
generic things.
back to
Yeah,
basic training, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Focusing on my weaker areas, but not necessarily neglecting my other phases like my step and my hop and my running.
Right.
Still important, but yeah.
And that phase of your training, is a typical periodization? Is it usually 4 weeks and then another 4 weeks and 4 weeks kind of thing?
So right now we're just doing intense training for fitness, I'd say, and strength. And then after 2 weeks, we're back in the pit doing some like bounds and drills for my jump. For my jump, yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you do the periodization, does it stretch across all of those? I mean, the way that I think of it is there's sprint work, there's bounding and plyos, and you can even put technique in that category, I guess.
Yeah.
And then your weight training, right? All of
Yeah.
those things also get periodized, right? Where you're doing
Yeah.
same kind of overall things. Yeah. Okay. So, well, it sounds like you got your work is cut out for you. You're getting ready to hit your outdoor season. You're going to be finishing up in July, and then say you hit the dream scenario. What do you think it would take you to get to getting a shot? Do you guys have Olympic trials in your country?
Yeah, so Olympic trials is British champs, which I would need to jump 12.5 to actually go. I'm currently at 12.3. I do think I will be able to go though, because there's been many times where I've bailed out on the jump, so I haven't completed the jump, and like from where I've stepped, you can tell it's a massive jump, or like no jumps where it's been massive. So I do think there's potential of me going to the Olympic trials.
Now, this has just popped into my head, so you have to forgive me. I was getting ready to say, let's sign off. I just heard one of my kids told me that they're changing the long jump board to where they're just going to mark where your foot hits.
Yeah.
Is that going to happen to the triple jump as well?
I don't think they said anything about it for the triple jump, but honestly, I feel like they might test it out with the long jump and see how it works first, but I don't think they said anything.
Well, it's funny because I mean, I remember even as a kid thinking, trying to hit that little sliver, right? Get as close as you can to it. I'm like, if you want to see how far somebody jumps, I was always like, well, why don't you just measure from when their toe hits,
That's
and
what I
where they
feel.
land, right? I mean, it seems like it kind of cuts out some really great performances where like,
Yeah.
just go, oh my gosh, that might have been 30 feet in the long jump if we'd have measured it, but he was, 2 feet behind the board or whatever. It's like, well, who cares where the board is? He jumped 30 feet, or whatever. So, you come out and jump 12, 6 or something, you're 12.3, but you were a foot behind the board. In your head, that would have been a 12.5 or better. So you're like, okay, wait. So yeah, I'm really fascinated to see that. I just heard it and I haven't confirmed it, but hearing
Yeah.
you've heard it. So I need to find out about that because I was just at a meet yesterday and obviously they're still using regular boards. It sounds like it's, I don't know what kind of tech it's got to be fueled by technology, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they want to try it at lower meets before they do it at the bigger meets, but I am not too knowledgeable about that. I know my coach doesn't approve. He doesn't think it's a great idea, and not many people do.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
not too
because
yeah.
it's tradition, right? It's
Yeah.
it's it's like the same thing they talk about over here with baseball. The purists want baseball to stay the same as it's always
Yeah.
been. And the younger generations are like, God, I can't watch a baseball game. It takes 2.5 to 3 hours. It's like we got to speed this thing up,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And like you said, all the old fogies like me keep dying off. So the younger generation, things are going to look a lot different. So, all right, Michelle. Well, hey, congratulations on making it to these championships. You keep making it to at such a young age, and want to anytime. Excuse me. As soon as you get one of those marks, if you have the video, please send it, and I will promote you. To no end.
Thank you so
Your
much.
qualifying jumps. The journey as you continue getting better. I'd love to show you off at your best. You get a 12.5 and make it to the championships this year. I'd love to promote you. So anything I can do to help further you along, it would be an honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thanks for spending your time with us on this
It
Sunday.
was really nice talking to you today.
Okay. All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. Thank you, Michelle.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And that's going to finish it up here on Raise the Bar on this Sunday, March 10th. We just finished talking with Michelle Yalekhuee from Great Britain. Her parents are Nigerian, and she was born in Britain and continues there to this day. Hopes someday to go back and compete in Nigeria and visit her homeland where her roots are from. But she's quite happy in Britain training. She has just embarked on a journey with a new coach, Keith Fleming. Seen his work on Instagram a lot, and she has improved already under his tutelage. So she's up to 12:33 in meters and needs to hit 12:50 to make it to the British Championships, which is the whole thing, I guess. And at 18 would make her obviously one of the younger competitors in that under 23, obviously 5 years below the age limit. And she has some great aspirations and dreams of becoming a top quality athlete and competing at the international level. She'd like to make it to the 2028 Olympics here in LA. She'll be 4 years older then, at the ripe old age of 22, I guess, and or 23 by the time the Olympics happen. So we hope to see her continue to improve and get stronger and faster and master one of the more difficult of the field events, the triple jump, which is very technical. And she's already jumping at a high level, and just had a great time talking with her. She's got her sights set on a marketing degree over there, has a career in mind already, which we talked about with me was not the case. Didn't have a great grand plan, but she seems very, very bright, very mature, and very focused, and has a plan already for her life. So, but she did mention taking things step by step also. So it's good to have an overview in mind, and then also be flexible, as things do tend to change in these crazy lives that we live. But that gets us to the end here. So thank you again to Michelle. She's a wonderful guest and bright future. And I thank you for joining here on Raise the Bar. Be looking. We have just done a lot of things. I have a new website that is going to open up soon. It is going to be linked to a subscription possibilities with my Zoom classes available, with video analysis available, all those things. The podcasts, these last couple of years of podcasts, more available. And we have renamed to Sky High and Fly Jump Lab, which has been kind of fun because we talk about being in the lab all the time. So the kids come in, and kids too, but some elites, I perform experiments on them. So, but they're all quite benign. We're just, running and jumping over things, or, hurdling or sprinting or lifting weights or whatever it is that we're doing, trying to get better and continue to raise the bar in our performances. So anyway, that is the new brand on Instagram. Thanks for watching and listening. If you would like to have a question answered here on Raise the Bar, please send me a DM at Sky High and Fly Jump Lab on Instagram, or send me an email at Sky High and Fly, or skyhighandfly@gmail. Sorry. And we will do our best to answer your questions. And until next time, Troy Haines, Raise the Bar, signing off. Have a good one.